Hello, hello, and welcome to another edition of Maximum Growth Live. I'm doing my Shooter McGavin. My name is Jay Ruane. I'm the CEO of FirmFlex, your social media marketing agency for lawyers, as well as the managing partner of Ruane Attorneys, your civil rights and criminal defense law firm in Connecticut. And with me, once again, my friend down there, no longer in Del Boca Vista, but joining me from near our nation's capital, Seth Jay Price. Seth is the founder of Blue Shark Digital, your SEO firm for lawyers, as well as the managing partner of Price Benowitz, your DC, Maryland, Virginia, and South Carolina law firm. I'm waiting to hear when you're going to go into North Carolina so I can make it that whole trek down the southeast coast, because I don't want you coming up near me, Seth. Seth, how's your week going this week?
Going well. I'm really excited about our guest today. This is somebody who I've been following for quite a while. There was a landmark article a number of years ago in the New York Times sort of talking about this incredible firm just, less than an hour from where I was, and reached out to Sheela, and sort of my mind was blown. Things that we talk about today, she was doing 20 years ago, putting systems in place, offshore labor, creating something where she was no longer, while she was the brand, she was no longer doing the sausage making or even the managing. She truly E-Myth probably as well as any lawyer we know. So I just can't wait to sort of get her insights on her journey.
Yeah, I definitely too. I made sure to take it easy yesterday for St. Patrick's Day to make sure that I was focused and able to be present during this conversation today, because I didn't want to be dragging, having had too many shots of Irish Mist and a couple of pints of Guinness on Paddy's Day. But, one of the things that's really interesting about her story, having read parts of her book, was that a lot of this stuff, even though she went to Harvard, they don't teach you this in Harvard. This is stuff that
nobody had a Harvard go. My uncle was Harvard way back in the day, right? And my dad was Yale. Their classmates, there's one PI lawyer in their class, and he buys the wine for all their dinners. It is a group that doesn't go into entrepreneurship generally. They may start companies, but they're certainly not, elevating the B2C law firm landscape.
Yeah, it's interesting. Lawyers tend to be very risk averse. Now, our audience tends to be the opposite of that, right? Our audience tends to be people that are willing to take chances. But there's this part of us as lawyers that gets beaten into us in 1L, 2L year about you don't take chances. You look at all the options, and then somebody else gets to make that decision. And I think it's interesting that of all the law entrepreneurs that I know that are in our audience, that I've met at seminars, that type of thing, I feel like the people that I have met would have been successful small business owners no matter what business they got into. They just happened to pick law because they maybe were steered that way or had some interest that way. But then when they got to law school, they said, you know what, the big firm life may not be for me. And they found their way.
I'm that roadmap, right? I came out, there were no great jobs. The go-go 80s were done. And I grabbed a big firm job so I could check the box. I had no interest. If I could have written the script all over again, I would never have gone inside of a law firm. My job, my sort of vision for life was something entrepreneurial. It just happened to be a law firm because of my law partner that we ended up launching.
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing, and a lot of people, and I have an attorney who's with me in my office now. She is a first generation lawyer, first generation college grad, child of immigrants, and she has this incredible mind and entrepreneurial spirit, and yet she has this battle inside her because we're dealing with, she's a woman of color, her family are immigrants, and they have a vision for what a lawyer is, and it doesn't comport with her vision for entrepreneurial lawyership. I think that's why she found her way to us after going through a number of big firm and corporate and municipal jobs. But there's a part of her that says, well, I need to fulfill the role that my forebears wanted me to fulfill to honor their sacrifice. And I keep saying to her, I want to pull you into my world of entrepreneurship because you have so much to offer. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation because I think that's something that Sheela found early on was, I want to go after what I want to go after. And it's a remarkable message for all of our listeners. So what do you think? Should we bring her on?
Let's do it.
All right, we'll be right back, folks. Let's hear some messages, and when we come back, we'll have Sheela Murthy with our Maximum Growth Live interview. We'll be right back. Hi, I'm Jay Ruane, one of the founders of FirmFlex and a practicing attorney for over 20 years. Anyone who knows me knows how my firm runs on the systems we create, and it has allowed us to flourish, even in tough times. I spent years and hundreds of thousands of dollars until I finally figured out a way to engage my audience and drive top-of-mind awareness with social media. And what did I do once I figured it all out? I built a system for it, and now you can put that system to work for you. You see, we took the hard part, creating the content and finding the images, and made it foolproof. Every day you will have curated social media topics to post designed to make your firm constantly remind your audience about your firm, what you do, and how you can help. And the best part? You don't even need to hire a dedicated social media person to do this for you. In fact, you don't even need to hire anyone new. We designed the system to make it easy for you to delegate to your receptionist, assistant, or paralegal and have them execute solid social media for you in just 5 minutes a day. It's like having a content writer, researcher, and graphics designer at a fraction of the price it would cost to hire in-house. Sign up today for the Social Super System and start building your brand where your clients already are, on social media.
In this world today, if you want to grow your business, you want to grow your firm, you want to take on more cases and make a bigger impact, you have to have a digital blueprint. Statistically, throughout the time that we've been working with Blue Shark Digital, our law firm, the Atlanta Divorce Law Group, grew over 1,400%. They truly understand where we're headed and how we want to get there. I have a team in Blue Shark Digital that I feel like has my back.
Welcome, Sheela Murthy. We're so excited to have you here today.
I'm honored to join you guys.
Sheela, the lawyer, the entrepreneur, the philanthropist, and the recent subject of the book being Sheela, the life journey of an immigration lawyer. Very exciting and a very fascinating read.
Thank you so much. I was very equally surprised that somebody would actually want to write about us lawyers.
You know, you're not just any lawyer, and one of the things that I've been following for a long time, and why I would love to have you on the show, is you have done something with your law firm. And I remember early on when I spoke to you, you said, "I don't have a law firm; I have a technology play." Can you share with the audience a little bit about what you built? You were born in India, emigrated to the U.S., Harvard Law, and a lot of people started law firms. Not many people have the Murphy firm.
Thank you, Seth, for the opportunity again. So really, I mean, our goal, so sometimes I define the law or explain that it's not really a true law firm in the sense, like you said, it's sort of a quasi-social entrepreneurship business, a law firm, a technology company, because one of the main driving forces for me was to educate, enlighten, and empower the world on the complex and ever-changing US laws and regulations. And I remember 25, 26, 27 years ago when we were one of the earliest law firms out there on the internet and still the world's most popular legal website. A lot of people were like, why are you giving away the store for free? Shouldn't you be charging for this advice or information? And my attitude was, look, the internet's going to change the world. It's going to change everything. So we might as well continue to empower and be the go-to place that people will trust and respect. And, with hard work and determination and a little bit of vision and listening to other smart people around me, I wish I could say that was all my own brilliant genius, knowing how the internet would change the world, but alas, it wasn't. But it was my openness and willingness to know that I need to get feedback from others who may be way smarter than me. So I think lesson 101 is surround yourself with very smart people who complement you and who are very different than you, and who will challenge the way we look at the world and think about things.
So we get it, right? Giving away content, awesome. Becoming the authority. It's a playbook that now seems, of course, but you were like one of the first people with the internet to tap into that. Walk us through how you built the firm to leverage that, and how you leverage technology. Because again, two of the things we talk a lot about on this show are leveraging technology and technology and systems, as well as using a global workforce. And it seems like you were, again, decades ahead of your time.
Thank you. So in terms of, using what they now call informational marketing, again, it was, I think, so at the end of the day, you can be very smart and savvy with business, but you also have to have what I call passion and purpose in life. And so since my passion and purpose was to educate the world, because I suffered going through the immigration process, which you alluded to earlier, being born in India, going through the immigration process with a lawyer in New York whose focus was to make a little more money rather than focusing on helping me and educating me and getting me on my road to success. I just wanted to create a law firm where the focus would be on helping clients, educating and empowering them. And in the process, it's like build it and they will come. It was a little bit of, coming from a good place. What do they say? Intentionality will determine where we go. And so to a large extent, it was, okay, we're going to educate people. And we certainly didn't want to become bankrupt in the process of doing it. We wanted to continue the business. And I don't think we quite realized how big of an impact having name and credibility and honesty and integrity and being the go-to place would become for the firm, in terms of having, of course, a Baltimore, Maryland-based presence, a small Seattle office, and then having a team in India with about 35 to 40 people in Chennai, India, and with liaison offices in Mumbai and Hyderabad in India. And the vision really was, again, if people are stuck at a US consulate somewhere in Asia, for us to wake up at 2:00 at night to answer a consular officer didn't make sense. So how could we do this in a manner that would be beneficial for somebody local attorneys there to help the clients, as well as how can we serve, you need two hands to clap. How can they help our clients who are stuck there? How can we take care of the immigration within the United States and create this global synergy so that people can work together in a beautiful, brilliant, seamless fashion to get 24/7 client service?
So how did you talk us through this? You have a Baltimore operation, some people in Seattle, but how did you sort of lay out what's done in the US, what was being done overseas?
So all of the work that requires a US lawyer, an admitted lawyer in the United States, to practice as a lawyer and a law firm in terms of representing clients, filing the petitions, filing the motions, the appeals. We get a lot of cases with denials from other law firms or requests for evidence, RFEs. And so we sort of become the lawyers to some extent. And so we take on and file those kinds of petitions and applications and processes in the United States. For people who are stuck in India with visa denials, you don't need a US lawyer for that process, because again, you're in a foreign country, and those lawyers who are there are lawyers duly admitted and licensed to practice under India and Indian government laws, but they are practicing US immigration law. So it's not really a law firm, it's more like back-end operations. But because of the complex nuances of, cross-continental laws and the Indian government not allowing me as a US citizen to own and operate an operation in India, I had to actually divest myself of the entire ownership of that company years ago, 10, 15 years ago, because going into it, nobody told me about these limitations. And then you're like, oh my God, I can't own this. So you know what? Let it run on its own steam, let it do what it will, but it's more back operational support for people stuck there who have legal issues and questions. And now we're even using them, we're overwhelmed with work here to have them do some of the data entry, scan some of the documents, look at the paperwork for us and input some of that data so that when our staff comes in first thing in the morning, some of that information is already in our database and systems.
So before I flip to Jay, one of the things that you've done, and it sounds like you've done it for a while, is you've extracted yourself out of this to almost a chairwoman rather than a managing partner. Talk us a little bit about that process and how you've gone through that over the years.
So that is harder, I think, for most of us as lawyers to give up the control, because we're all A-type control freaks. We want to control it till our dying day, even if we're 120 by then, right? Now, for those who are familiar with my life or who are aware of it, I will share a secret. For those who are not aware, for those who are aware, you know it. I'm married to this right-wing creative artist, a professor at the Maryland, who was at the Maryland Institute College of Art, a master in fine arts, long hair, beard. He was a lead drummer in a rock group in college. So completely different way of looking at the world. So right from the last 15, 20 years, he would say, I don't understand why you're working 16, 18 hours a day. I don't get why you do this. When are you going to be focusing on the bigger picture of enjoying life, of being a true teacher, a mentor, a guide? Who's going to be looking at the big picture vision for the firm if you are working from morning to evening like that little, animal on the Ferris wheel that keeps going round and round? It's like, when are you going to become a strategic, a visionary, a true leader? And hearing it for a long time, I slowly but surely started to release my tight grip on wanting to control everybody and everything. And like the beauty of life, things we don't control, the minute I stopped micromanaging, the firm actually started to grow faster, because now I was able to actually get a bird's eye view instead of having my blinders on and just working my 16-hour days. So some of it came from external stimulus. Some of it was me realizing that I really wouldn't be happy working, 12, 14, 16-hour days, 6, 7 days a week. And I couldn't see myself doing that when I was, 60, 70, 80, 90. It just didn't make sense. So for almost 15 years now, which means in my 40s, I pretty much started to, I have a lawyer who's now been with me 21 years, who's the firm's managing attorney, Aaron Finkelstein. And I have 3 assistant managing attorneys who've been with the firm about 15 years each. And part of it, of course, I think, again, another problem, I say a problem because it's a challenge for us as lawyers, is retaining talent, keeping them engaged and motivated and feeling valued and appreciated. And it's almost a secret recipe that isn't in our DNA. I don't know if you've heard of this. There's a website and a place called thelawyer.brain.com that apparently we are an anomaly. We are the freaks of nature. We are the bell curve in the world, so different than almost every other profession or occupation in the world. And when I started to realize, hearing all of these, like many people, I did the Myers-Briggs personality test. I heard about this lawyer.brain.com. I contributed to the book about the lawyer's well-being published by the ABA. I knew that lawyers, brilliant as we are, smart, clever, strategic, we counsel the world, we love solving problems, but we shouldn't become experts in areas we are not intrinsically good at. Our DNA doesn't work for certain things. So we need to be able to graciously yield and surround ourselves with people who are very different than us, where the 1 + 1 can become 3. It's not easy. It's not easy because, again, I come back to us control freaks. So in my case, I knew that this man, my husband, loved me and wouldn't make me bankrupt. So if you don't have a spouse in your life or somebody you trust, maybe it's a partner in the business, maybe it's a family member, maybe it's an outside consultant firm. I know a lot of people join the organizations where CEOs gather together from different companies and different businesses. It's very good from a networking and other point of view for lawyers to not just put on our blinders and be only with other law firms and lawyers, but go out into the outside world, because great cross referrals, business, and understanding business and the law firm more as a business rather than purely as the practice of law, because we kind of straddle a profession and a / occupation and a business.
You know, I've got a question for you about early on in this process. There must have been pushback from other lawyers and maybe even people early on who came to you and haven't stayed with you, where they said, well, you just can't do it this way. That's not how lawyers work. So I want to talk a little bit about how you were able to overcome that and say, no, I'm going to do it this way. Either come along or get out of the way. Can we talk a little bit about sort of the intrinsic cement shoes that most lawyers have found themselves wearing that won't let them innovate and iterate like you have?
So it's a fantastic analysis and question. I think the trump card that I held, and that still is with me, is that I continue to be the 100% equity owner of the firm. So to the extent that someone says, you're full of it, Sheela, I don't agree with everything that's going on, I'm like, okay. Now remember, I could do that, or I could say, look, I value why you're saying it. Let's break this down. Let's see, what am I missing that you're looking at? And so being completely open. I think someone once said, you know, I tend to be a little bit Pollyanna, a little bit in sort of la la land. I don't know what my limitations are or should be, because people have said, you know, you have 3 strikes against you. Do you realize you're a woman, you're an immigrant, you're a person of color? And I said, oh my God, I had no clue. I thought those would be my 3 biggest strengths and attributes that would make me successful. So I've always tried to look at the glass of life instead of half empty as half full. I've always said, when people have said this, it can't be done this way, or it doesn't make sense, or why would you give the store away for free? To say, wait, if other smart people around me think this will work, how much do I lose financially and otherwise by giving it a shot for 3 months, 6 months, a year? Because initially I was the only lawyer in my law firm for the first almost 3 or 4 years, because I was so nervous about hiring more people, because I was convinced that this bubble would burst. I would have no money to feed myself and others. So why bother? So I was almost experimenting. It's like some of those weird people that experiment on medication themselves. I was experimenting to see whether what I was doing would actually be an incredible, like a genius of an idea, or the dumbest idea that ever happened. And one of the things you will read over and over and over again from the world's most successful entrepreneurs, whether it's the founder of FedEx or founder of, the Kentucky Fried Chicken. I mean, you have in business school, the MBAs will tell you thousands of cases where everybody said to them, you're a moron. If you remember the founder of FedEx in Harvard Business School, the professor said, whatever you do, do not do what you're doing. It's the dumbest idea on the face of this earth. To have somebody from Baltimore send a package to Baltimore for it to fly to the middle of the country and then come back out is like sheer nonsense. It's going to be a disaster. But guess what? It worked. And the reason it worked is because there was a deep level of conviction and maybe not knowing your limitations and knowing that this possibly couldn't work, because a lot of life is on blind faith. A lot of life is trusting each other. I mean, you know, you want to schedule a time to talk with me. How do I know it's not like coming from a really not a great place? We trust. The world runs on trust and faith and love and compassion and good things and positive things. And so when I tell you I run Pollyanna, it's like, okay, I truly believe that if we all give out good karma in the world, the goodness will come back. And so giving out that information, that marketing 27 years ago, when it was unheard of, answering questions for tens of thousands of people. We had over 10,000 people in a news network digest. And people were like, why are you answering this? I don't get it. And my attitude was, I'm learning immigration law. I'm learning to use the computer. Before that, I used to use the dictaphone, dictate, and had a secretary type for me. And you know what? I just looked at it as it's going to help me. And if I lose everything, you know what? At least I know I gave it a serious shot in life, because there'll never be an upside if you don't have a downside. So you have to be willing to take a risk as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. Because if you say, I don't want to risk, then you join a big firm. And by the way, 9 out of 10 Harvard lawyers, I would say more than 98 out of 100 Harvard lawyers don't start law firms, don't become entrepreneurs, don't do business, because they make a very good living. They do very well financially. But again, you make a good living, but then there's a completely different level when you are in your own business and an entrepreneur, because, you're in a different league all of your own, I think.
Oh, surely. I mean, I love the incessant optimism, because I think as a legal entrepreneur, you need to have that. I haven't ever met any successful legal entrepreneur who doesn't have a natural level of optimism. They wake up every morning very happy. But I want to switch to my favorite topic, which is systems, because you built a systems juggernaut. And I want to talk to you, in the last 5 years or so, systems have really become a buzzword. A lot of lawyers, there's a lot of products out there for lawyers and business owners to use to document their systems, but you were doing it 15, 20 years ago. So let's talk about that. How did you document your systems, get buy-in from your people, and really develop a systems-based practice?
So the technology was evolving, the world was changing, the internet was expanding, computers were getting less expensive. And again, as I keep saying over and over again, may sound like a broken recorder, surround yourself with people who challenge you, question you, tell you what you're doing is completely wrong, or at least that you need to look at different ways to do things. And if they're willing to put their shoulder to the wheel and be part of that dream and vision to work with you. So as we were working on systems, we slowly evolved, our systems kept growing. It was a very organic growth. It wasn't like, whoops, now here, let's go plonk down $3-4 million and buy a new software off the shelf. We did attend the ABA Tech Show, I remember about 25 years ago, and looked at every software that existed out there for immigration law firms and law firms in general. And we didn't find anything that gave us comfort or peace of mind that this would work for our firm. So we said, okay, let's create our own software. And so we started from scratch to completely create a proprietary software in which, again, we've invested a whole bunch of money by having a team both here and in India working on it. So again, we've used global workforce to strategize and again, to be able to work 24/7 and save costs. And so we've really evolved slowly but organically, making it work. As we came across a problem, we would say, okay, where does this go? How does this go across to other teams or departments within the firm, that if by plugging this hole we'll do it? Should we look at a bigger picture, again, the bird's eye view on how can we work on this software? And I can tell you that after 27 years, we continue to tweak it on a daily basis, because the laws change, the forms change, the systems change. And constantly we are trying to fine tune the system to make it more a lean, mean fighting machine, so we can be more efficient and more profitable and provide peace of mind and not have your staff completely overwhelmed and overworked. So, I would like to say, again, I'm this incredible know-it-all visionary that came up with this master plan, but to a large extent, it evolved as the firm grew and evolved. But we were nimble, we were willing to go with the flow, and we were open to the idea that this could potentially be something that we need to keep tweaking as we grow.
It's funny. I'm sure Jay is smiling because Jay has done just that. When he doesn't see software he likes, he builds it himself. And I didn't see the SEO company I liked out there and built Blue Shark out of that. The other obstacle, which is, again, I'll just put for Baltimore, not the easiest place to scale a business. So that may be your fourth obstacle that you were dealing with. But I want to pivot for a moment into intake. That's something that most of the lawyers on our show have struggled with, but it's one of those areas that you're constantly tweaking and trying to figure out how to do better and how to make sure that you have motivated staff that brings people in. I know your brand helped a lot because a lot of people came and they weren't shopping. They said, hey, we know we're coming to the Murthy firm, but what did you do to help scale intake across the globe? How did you to build the firm you did? You have to have the clients come somehow. What were some of the sort of best practices you developed over the years to help bring people from potential client to paying client?
So initially, Seth, it was obviously an issue in terms of most people they were so used to getting everything for free, 27 years ago, and nobody paid for somebody that they just found on the internet. And there was also the issue of, like you said, name, reputation, credibility, integrity. How do we know these are not legit? How do we know these are not scam artists that were going to take our money and run away with it? So you build trust one person at a time, one client at a time. But the beauty, of course, of the internet was just as quickly as the bad name can go around, the good name can go around too. And I sort of didn't understand completely the power of multiplication 27 years ago. But as more and more people started getting cases approved, we started seeing the referrals from them and their family and their friends and their friends' friends, and posting on the internet that, hey, this is a law firm and a lawyer you should use because, she's a Harvard lawyer and she cares and she'll fight for you. And I am by nature a fighter. I think many lawyers have a fighting, in our DNA. And I love the fact that I don't like hearing no. I love winning for my clients. I don't like it when I feel the government's trying to pull a fast one and, issue a denial on a case that is either clearly in our favor or certainly there's enough gray area that I think we can, argue a point and try to win and fight for the clients. So you get the name and reputation of someone who's proactive, who's caring, who's dedicated, who's going to be a pit bull and not let go. If the government issued a denial, we would go back and say, well, okay, is it cheaper to file an appeal or cheaper to just file a new case for you so that we'll get you the green card one way or the other? So we did what it took to get to the results of helping the client. And we did it, and I did it purely out of the goodness of my heart because I don't like seeing no and getting denials. I think we have, like most lawyers, we like winning for our clients, and we like problem solving. And so I used the DNA that works in my favor to build the firm. And in areas that I knew I had an Achilles heel and I was very weak in those areas, I surrounded myself with people very different who would compliment me and ask me to look at different aspects or angles of the issue. And the intake system kept, again, growing and evolving. So we started off very big, overall, and then tuned it and fine-tuned it and worked on it. And it's still a work in process. It's still a work in progress. We're still continuing. It's a process, a system that's never going to be. What do they say? I think once Tom Friedman said that in one of our talks where I was the chair of the Maryland Chamber of Commerce. He said, if you say you're finished, then you are finished. You can never, ever be done in life. You're always improving. You're always fine-tuning your process, and you need to continue. And the other thing he said, which I completely agree with, is that PQ, persistent quotient, and CQ, curiosity quotient, will always be more important than IQ. And so, as an immigrant, I think immigrants bring so much. Immigrants can teach Americans so much, just as much as Americans can teach immigrants so much, because you are so open to the world. You're coming to a new country, a new culture. Even understanding the thick American accent is a challenge on the first time. But just knowing that, it's such a great country. It's got incredible opportunities. It's the land of milk and honey for most of us from outside. Yet a lot of people here see the problems and the race riots and the tensions. But we from outside sometimes come in with almost, again, this childlike innocence / ignorance and think that, oh, I can do anything. I'm in this incredible country called the United States of America. So when someone says, here's a hurdle, Sheela, I'm like, what hurdle? That's like fun. That's a challenge. Let's go cross it and then go to let's cross the next hill and the next hill and the next mountain and the next mountain.
Sheela, I have a question for you. You successfully scaled to a size that many lawyers aspire to and most lawyers can't achieve. Looking back now, do you have a specific hire or category of person or type of job that you hired where you can say, man, if I only hired that person or filled that role 2 or 3 years earlier, my life would have been so much easier? Where can people who are looking to scale say, if I'm going to hire, I should hire this person sooner rather than later? What's your input on a question like that?
Good question, Jay. So in general, I don't tend to look back and say, oh, I wish. I try not to, because again, it's the eternal optimist and the person that says, you know what, if I made all those terrible mistakes, those mistakes are what have helped me to become stronger and better today. If I hadn't made those mistakes, I might never have appreciated the importance of retaining people. And talking about the importance of retaining people, especially in law firms, my first, and I shared this in my book, in the book that you referred to, the biography on my life by HarperCollins, where I ended up losing 3 of my 4 paralegals within a 1-week period. That was 75% of my law firm walked out at me in the first couple of years of my running it. In the beginning, I always would say, oh, they're lazy, they're incompetent, they're not as driven, as motivated, they don't buy into my dream. I was basically pointing the finger at them rather than pointing it at myself. The minute I realized that the underlying problem with all those 3 people wanting to quit was me and myself, that was the only one person I could blame on the face of this earth. It was very painful. It was very difficult, because I had to accept that I was somehow chasing away people because I did not appreciate what they brought to the table, their limitations, their strengths. And if they didn't buy into the vision and mission of the firm and my glorious goal of educating and empowering the world and taking away all these problems, then it's ultimately my fault that I do not sit there and invest the time to share the firm's vision, mission, values, and goal, which now, by the way, we have regular meetings with staff, with new staff, with existing attorneys, with paralegals, and I go through rooms. I invest time on human capital, because what do they say? The most valuable assets in a law firm walk out every evening when you go home, pre-COVID days. They went back, they could now in a COVID world, most of them can work anywhere in the country or anywhere in the world for whoever treats them right, respects them, and pays them maybe more money. But people don't leave only for money. People leave because we use the word EGO, ego. If you hurt somebody's ego, we don't treat people right, intentionally or unintentionally, doesn't matter. We will lose our best people. And some of the most creative people tend to have super sensitive egos. So if we want to so when you say, did I get somebody, did I not? I will tell you, I did notice initially, and maybe it goes back to the world 27 years ago, Jay and Seth, that very few men were willing to work under a woman 27 years ago, because I was young. Remember, now I'm in my late 50s. So I was in my 30s, late 30s, or early 30s, I guess, or whatever, right? 27, mid 30s. So here's a young woman of color, an immigrant, trying to hire all these, men with experience. And people were like, I didn't quite understand it. So if you would say what was the one great hire, I've said this to Aaron. He was what I would refer to as a baby attorney. He'd been practicing immigration law for 5 years, but was studying as a student, studying, working, and, had a family. And so it was a very good find. And he's business savvy, but yet I taught him everything I knew, like a good teacher and a mentor. And, for whatever reason, he decided to, what do they say, hitch your wagon onto my cart or hitch your cart onto my wagon. he decided to make this a part of his life's dream. And once I had that one male, I found other men more willing to join the law firm, because I remember when Aaron joined, we were 24 women, and he was the first male we hired.
Wow.
And men, lawyers didn't. Now I think it's more common to say, if a woman's running a firm, that men are okay to work under a woman. Even now, I think it might not be as common, but certainly 25 years ago, it wasn't. A quarter century ago, it wasn't the norm. And so I've said to Aaron that, you are one of the best things that happened. He said, hey, it's the same. It's like a marriage made in heaven. It's, if you can make 1 + 1 3, that's the best. So he often shares the story about, with Sheela, you get what you see what you get. There's no hidden agenda. And so he's more paranoid by nature, very more cautious than I am. And so he kept waiting for his first 6 months for the other shoe to drop, the proverbial other shoe to drop. And then after 6 months, finally said, I guess this is who she is, and I'm not going to worry about is something terrible going to happen, that you're getting what you see. And so again, as I talk about people completely different from ourselves who complement us, that's what I would focus on, because they make you uncomfortable to some extent, because we look at the world so differently. But I know that 1 + 1 can become 3 because I surround myself with people who are so different.
That's awesome. Well, Sheela, thank you so much for your time today. The book, which we'll put up, is Being Sheela, The Life Journey of an Immigration Lawyer. What an amazing journey it has been. And we thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah,
it's been an honor and a pleasure, and I really hope we influence and impact a lot of young people to thinking outside the box, to being open and creative, and not second guessing themselves. It's a combination of your gut and your mentors and people you surround yourself with. And it's not just the practice of law, because the practice of law is integrally connected with us as human beings. It's enjoying the journey of life as a human being. And I get back to the spirituality of it, because we're not just human beings going through the spiritual experience, but we're spiritual beings going through the human experience. And as lawyers, we truly can solve problems, empower people, help others, and in the process, learn, grow, and become better as lawyers and as human beings. So good luck to everybody.
Thank you so much, Sheela. That's just a great positive message to end our segment here. And folks, we'll be right back with more Maximum Growth Live. Wow, Seth, some really, really interesting stuff there about her journey. And I love the positivity. She's just got, having a conversation with her, you can feel the warmth and the positivity ooze out. What were your takeaways?
No, and it was fascinating for many of us who are not even as far. She's further along than most of our audience. The fact that she's figured out all these different things, she figured out how to leverage global labor. She figured out systems and software before you could just go buy something. The idea that she elevated a brand where she went from lawyer to manager, and then clearly has elevated herself even beyond that to somebody who can, play chess and move. If there's anybody that we've had on the show who is truly E-Myth, that I feel like that's our guest today. That was just awesome.
Yeah, it was just really good stuff, really good stuff. So what we're going to do now is we're going to end this week's live show, folks. A couple of cool things for you. Number one, you can always catch us on our own standalone podcast, which is available wherever you get your free podcasts, either on Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon. We are there. It's called Maximum Growth Live. Please subscribe, check us out, give us 5 stars. We love to see your feedback there. Of course, every Tuesday and Thursday, you can catch us here live on Facebook with our Facebook Live show, and you can actually go on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Maximum Growth Live, and you can watch any of our prior episodes. So if you hear us talking about one that interests you, you can watch it on demand at any time. Of course, our show is syndicated through Maximum Lawyer and the Maximum Lawyer media family. If you're listening on Maximum Lawyer on their podcast right now, I would suggest that you also tune in to our podcast on Tuesdays, because it's the only place that you can catch our Tuesday show is on our standalone podcast, or of course on the Facebook Live page as well. But what I'm going to do on the back end of this set is we had a really, really interesting conversation this past week. And so I'm going to bolt on to the podcast edition of this episode, our Tuesday conversation, because it gives some people some insight into what goes on every Tuesday on our live show when you and I actually break down and talk about scalability, growth, problems that we are having. It's a lot more personal of an episode, and I think our audience would certainly be interested in doing it. Of course, you can always tune into Seth's show, the SEO Insider, if you want to get deeper into digital marketing. Seth has a weekly show that he puts out where he interviews the greats in search engine optimization and digital marketing, and that's available to you. And finally, of course, if you're interested in systems and growth, please join our Maximizing Your Law Firm for Growth, Systemizing Your Law Firm for Growth Facebook group that's available. And boy, that's a lot of stuff I just threw at them, Seth, but we'll have links in our podcast show notes as well as down below in our live stuff. Got anything else for me, Seth?
I'm excited.
Opening day is not far away. Opening day for baseball is not far away.
It was great. Like, being in Florida, getting to see a game of spring training, sort of you could taste it. I was watching the Caps Islanders last night, and seeing that closed stadium, I just can't wait back for live hockey. So yes, baseball's coming. I think that we're starting to see the world open up. So slowly but surely, hopefully by summer, we have some form of normalcy.
Yeah, I think we're going to get there. I mean, the vaccines are rolling out. Connecticut's going to allow a lot more people to get vaccinated soon. And I think by 4th of July, we're going to be, back to normal, whatever the new normal is.
And then, the rest of the South is going to laugh at us and just say, yeah, we've been there for a while. But for us stuck in the Northeast, we're almost there.
It's the world we live in, folks, and we are Maximum Growth Live. I want to thank you all for being with us. Seth, thank you for being with me this week. We will see you again on Tuesday, folks. We'll see you. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your life. Get out, get some sun, and bye for now.